We have a lot to talk about this morning on Table Talk, and I'd like my co hosts to introduce themselves first.
Good morning, Brenda. Chris Summerall, public servant for the citizens of the city of Detroit.
Good morning, Dr. Rose Moulton, clinical psychologist and author of Bloom.
Good morning, Cheryl Ajamu, founder and CEO of the Ajamu Group, producer of the Multicultural Media Luncheon during the Detroit Auto Show.
Welcome to my esteemed panel, and we have a lot to talk about, but I do want to, as our tradition, we have on this day in African American history in Detroit, and that's by Mr. Ken Coleman, who was a guest on my first show this morning. And on this day, June 19th, in 1963, some of you might remember 1963. These guys on the panel don't. Gates Brown of the Detroit Tigers hits a home run in his first Major League Baseball at bat against the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. In the Tigers' World Series championship year of 1968, Brown hit 370 and had 18 pinch hits. Gates Brown, Detroit Tigers. Those were kind of the days. Kind of those days they were playing at, well, it was called Briggs Stadium then, not Tiger Stadium.
Wow.
And I'd like to remind everybody that Livingston Family Dentistry is our sponsor, and we have to patronize so we can have lovely teeth.
Ting!
I mean, there's nothing, your smile says everything. And Livingston Family Dentistry is right down the street on Woodward, and they give great service, and their office is beautiful and it's modernized. And they will be on in a few weeks on our Meet the Dentist segment so that you can ask them any of your dental questions, because one of the worst things you could ever have is a toothache. I mean, a toothache will drive you crazy. I don't know if any of you on the panel, have any of you ever had a toothache?
I've had one. It's been a while, but I've had one, and like you said, it's something that just, I mean, it takes precedent over everything.
Makes you want to slap your mama.
Well, yeah, it makes you want to, not eat for sure.
Oh, no, that would be horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you two have never had a toothache.
No, I guess we've been lucky.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've had a root canal.
That's what I had. So I
That's
consider that. That's what I had, a root canal.
Well, if the
Uh,
right dentist gives you the root canal, you don't feel anything.
with
Well,
the right
that's a real-
drugs.
Livingston,
Right.
yeah. If they do it, you won't feel anything.
No, well, seriously.
Yeah.
Everybody, I'm sure Wednesday night we were all, I won't even say shocked, but I was saddened about what happened at the church down in Charleston, South Carolina. 9 people killed. And it was just terrible, but I can't say it was unbelievable.
I agree. I think we've become somewhat numb to it to a degree. Not that it doesn't have an effect on us. However, we almost anticipate tragedies like this. If a couple days pass, we're wondering what's next. And when this happened, I mean, it was mind blowing because you never really expected to be in a church where individuals go and are there pursuing what are peaceful, understood as peaceful endeavors, and they were in there praying, and the terrorist, he made his way in, and then he murdered 9 people. So
Yeah.
Rhodes, I want your comments first, because I tell you, I cried.
Yeah, it's
I
it's.
cried.
I told someone this morning I'm filled with such a range of emotions over this story because it saddens. I know most of us in the country, like you said, the sad part is sometimes we become desensitized to this because it's like every single week we're having a new story, just really highlighting the gaping wound of racism that exists in this country.
Hold on just a second. Darren? Is Darren? Oh, okay. He's not on. Well, as soon as
Yes, this is me. I'm here. Good morning.
okay, there he goes. Darren Calhoun, who is one of our regular co-hosts, he's going to kind of sit in with us by phone this morning, and as we talk about this situation, as you know, Darren, we're talking about the church slaughter. But
Yeah,
Rose was
my
saying, and then we'll have Cheryl, and I'd like to have your thoughts.
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, go ahead. You want
No,
to
just the disparity of response. That's something Jon Stewart mentioned last night on his show. And if you didn't see that clip from his show last night, it's definitely worth watching. He talks about the response that our country has when terrorists want to attack America. We go into countries and we want to rid them of the injustices there, and we have so much injustice going on here. It's like we are in the midst of a civil war when you think about just the crimes against blacks that's occurring by the police force, and not all policemen, we know that, so I don't want to generalize all policemen in there, but in this latest where this man has admitted that his desire was to start a race war. He went in there to kill blacks because he wants to rid this country, take their country back.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
a
what I
lot
was
of them
gonna
have
comment
felt
on.
like that.
That's what I was
That's
going to
interesting.
comment on. And then just the way that he was apprehended. I mean, think about if that situation was reversed. If it was a church of white people and no black person came in, how different would it have been? I mean, because usually in some cases they shoot and then ask questions later. But you
Right.
notice with this situation, it wasn't that. And then I did notice that they were trying to bring mental illness in. And it didn't
Early.
really, yeah. And I mean, I think the way and the calculated way he did it, it didn't sound like a person that had a mental
And
illness.
I'm the first to point
Right.
out, this looks like it's a mental case, and I feel the same way. Just the way the calculation behind it, oftentimes a mental illness, if it was some psychosis really pushing this guy, oftentimes they will take their own lives after that. But he had an agenda. He had an agenda.
Darren?
Yeah, it's first of all, good morning, everybody.
Good
I
morning,
morning,
Darren.
I
Darren.
wish I was sitting there with you. Nice try, Chris. What the big issue that I have with this whole situation is that it's a continuation across the country where it's nearly nonstop. We can go week to week and just put on a calendar how many assaults against African Americans where we're having limited response and we're getting limited judicial action, where police officers are going free for shooting people. One guy gets to walk away from a job for putting his knee in the back of a 13-year-old girl. Thank God we have Baltimore, one's going to face criminal prosecution for the same act, putting a knee in his back of a guy and broke his neck. But this guy gets to walk, gets to talk, and, just like Cheryl said, it used to be shoot first and ask questions. But we have, come on out. Remember we were talking the last time I was in Detroit about those bikers who were able to sit there and talk and sit on the side of a truck after killing
Not
9 people.
handcuffed.
Right. Not
so-
handcuffed. They
Not
did not
handcuffed. They
call
were
them
just, hey,
thugs.
you guys, just relax. Nothing problem here. It's just we know you killed people, and we know that the war is going to continue. But you just have a seat here. You want some coffee. But the bigger problem I'm having is the taking away of the relative safety that you have going into a sanctuary. And this is South Carolina.
Well, Darren, remember the black church has been under siege for many, many years.
You're right.
We as a people can go back
Yeah.
to that.
Bombing.
And how do and I know they're strong enough. I know we, not they. I know we are strong enough to go back in that church and say we're not going to let the devil beat us. We're not going to let this idiot kid beat us and keep us away from church. We just got to start doing like something that said at the Million Man March years ago, where it said we need to have people watch while others pray.
Well,
Yes.
And that's all.
I
That's
just
just the
want to
logic of it.
say this. Yesterday, I just happened to go on a Fox News site on the internet, and the first thing I read was, "Oh, they're trying to say that this is a hate crime."
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they were just right away, because it was a white shooter. They started defending him on some way.
And this kid has admitted that this was a hate crime.
That was my point.
Yeah.
It would be a hate crime. You're right.
I think that it would be wise for us to stay away from any Fox correspondence, just for the sake of our own sanity. We know that they're heavily slanted. I think that one of the big problems
Yeah,
that
but then, wait,
But
my
but they
thing
but
is, Chris,
that's what brought this on though.
that's
Listen
what
to
they
those Fox
say.
reporters.
And here's the other piece. Nobody's held responsible for this vitriolic talk. Nobody is. And it's just like, I got to bring him up. It's just like Donald Trump. He's never held accountable. Nobody's ever held accountable.
Well, think about in this state where you have names of streets that are names of generals, from the Confederate side, racist
Yeah,
generals.
exactly.
You are waving a Confederate flag, by the way, which was not lowered to half mast today. The state flag
No,
and the
it was not.
American flag were lowered to half mast, but not the Confederate flag. So you have fertile ground that breeds people with this attitude. I haven't been to Charleston, but I hear it's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful state. City, and South Carolina is beautiful. But think about what you're breeding. This seed was planted so long ago in this kid to have this sense of racism. And he's been bred to believe that he has to get rid of this race who raped their women and takes their country.
Well, as far as this church is concerned, I have a friend who was baptized in that church. She was married in that church. All of that. I mean, she is grieving because she knows the people in that church. And
Yeah,
Charles,
my
let's
son is in South Carolina, right? In Charleston, South Carolina.
right. Well,
So
and I was born in South Carolina. And let's talk about the fact that of what's happened thus far this year in South Carolina. Remember the young man at the gas station who was reaching for his
Oh, yeah.
ID, and the policeman shot him, and he says, "Sir, why did you shoot me?" He's still calling the man sir. Let's look at Mr. Scott last
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
He gets shot in
Walter
the back
Scott.
and killed. Look at the mentality.
That exists there.
And I think that it touched right along what you said, Brenda. The large responsibility I feel is the media. I think that they have a huge role in this because of the way that we're depicted. We're depicted as not being valuable. It's not a terrorist attack unless there's a certain amount of white blood that has been shed. It's not a hate crime unless there is if it's perpetrated against African Americans. So I think that the media does a huge disservice. And I actually graduated in the South. I went to college and I went to high school in the South. And I can remember the shell shock that I had coming from Detroit. And I graduated in a part of Tennessee. And they fly the Confederate flag proudly, boldly down there. The school I went to was predominantly white. In the early 90s, there was a migration of Detroiters down there for a Saturn plant. So our parents went down there, and all these black students went down there. So we took over the football teams, the basketball teams, academics, everything. And these students, like the first day at the high school, we got in a fight. And it was really black against white. However, what it was based off of is they didn't know anything about us, and that's where the media
They
comes
knew
in.
something about
Well, they thought
the
they knew.
messages
They
that they were told.
the
Yeah.
incorrect messages.
Darren, what you say?
I said they knew the color of his skin.
Yeah, but what they understood about us was based on what the media, what television put out about
Parents.
us, and so
I would even take it even more. I would take it a step back from that, Chris. I apologize for cutting you off, but I don't think it's the media. I think it's their parents.
Yep,
This
that's
kid
what
is
I just
21
said.
years old.
well, I
He
agree
grew-
too.
His father gave him the gun to
For
go
his
and slaughter
birthday.
these people.
And I agree too. That wasn't the case with what I experienced. However, what I will say is, after proper education, some of those individuals that I punched and kicked and stuff like that,
Became
first day,
friends.
we became friends, and
Yeah.
we're still friends to this day. And so it's really about the value of correct information. And when Fox News and when all these outlets, even TV shows, how they portray black men and promote the
ignorance.
black family.
And how some black TV shows portray us.
Absolutely, which we're not
Yep,
really.
well, we have a responsibility as well. So that's a whole nother. We can talk about about that forever. But the bottom line is, you think about it, I can't, and this is something that Jon Stewart said on his show last night. Again, when you have street names, you're living on street named after people who promoted slavery. That's equivalent to having a street called Adolf Hitler in a Jewish neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Imagine that. No one would stand for that. But
Osama bin Laden in New York.
In New York.
In New York.
I mean, no one would stand for that. But we're expected as African Americans to kind of just
accept it.
to accept it and to pretend like it's not there. And it's just time to stop this madness.
I know it's time to stop, but I'm not putting a but on it because I'm very angry. I mean, I just feel like I'm grieving along.
Yeah.
I was in my room this morning and I'm sitting up crying. I mean, like the ugly cry because these people lost their lives and nobody cares. And I think about what President Obama said far too many times. I have come to you to talk about families that are grieving or groups. These are mass murders.
Mass murders that have rid, these lives. I was looking at the story of the youngest victim, Tywanza Sanders, 26-year-old, who lost his life trying to save the lives of others. And this kid, they shared just a quote he had on his last Facebook status that I shared on my page today. It was a Jackie Robinson quote, talking about the life you live and the impact you have to have on others. These are lives that could have continued to contribute. The pastor of the church, who's the youngest senator ever elected in South Carolina, what they could have continued to contribute for generations to come.
We have a call from Dr. Smith. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, we're here.
Yes. My question is that after the civil rights movement, we tended to see a coming together of the races. Now, since the election of President Obama, do you think that the impact of the laws that have passed by the red states predominantly, or by many states across the country, have impacted the way or the attitudes that we are seeing now in our police department, in our political system, and also in just the general populace? That's my question.
Well, thank you for your call, Dr. White. I think that, Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith. I think that more so than that is the historical lack of inclusion of the African American in the value of this country. I think that since we were kids in grade school, blacks have been viewed as aliens in this country, alien residents, and that continues today. I think that when the phrase "our country," that alienates African Americans, people of African descent, saying that this isn't your country. We've all heard since we were kids the phrase "go back to Africa," and so there's a dialogue that existed far before President Obama that kind of was the basis for.
I think she's saying, and you're right, Chris, but I think she's saying, did the election of President Obama exacerbate the situation? Did it make it
Of
bigger?
course
And
it
I agree
did.
that it did. I agree that it did because years ago, I guess some of you were born, when I was taking a grad class, they talked about the majority minority, which is going to be going on in this country or happening in this country, and how the fear of Caucasians, of the minorities coming in, will show itself, rear its ugly head. Now, this was in the early 70s when they were saying this, and this is showing that now. When President Obama got elected, that just, I mean, it started the Tea Party, it started all kinds of hate talk. Go on, what do you all think?
I just want to say, I think this probably around the 80s when I was still living in Memphis and I was working at a large transportation company, and they had a meeting about the browning of America. This was like 1989, 1990, and they were looking at the stats and saying by the year, they were looking at the year 2000, and they were like, by the year 2000, we're not going to be the majority.
They
It's
had
gonna
a
be
meeting? This
yeah.
company
It
had-
came up in a meeting,
well,
and I was in there because I was shadowing.
Did they
the
know you
CFO.
were in there?
Yeah, but
They
you
didn't
know,
care.
yeah, they figured she's just a college student. She's not gonna do. But it came up, and they were talking about it, saying that America is gonna be brown by the year 2000, and they were like, things are gonna change. And there was one person that was saying we've got to be more diverse, but there were other people in that meeting were like, well, we
That
just
wasn't
gonna
their
have to,
purpose.
we just gonna have to make sure that it doesn't happen at this company.
Well, thank you, Dr. Smith, for your call.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Now,
Another thing I want to bring up now.
I want to address one real quick thing.
Okay.
That's something that Chris said with regard to with regard to his school. He said that once he fought back, those kids started to respect him, and now they're his friends. That's what's got. And I'm not saying we have to have armed insurrection, but we've been fighting back for years. But that's what it's going to take is that we make a concerted fight back to draw that line in the sand and say, no more. You're not killing my kids anymore. You're not going to be stepping on their back. You're not going to be breaking their neck, giving them rough rides. We're not doing that anymore. Once that happens, once you stand straight up, they can't stand on your back.
well, it's about power.
And about money, too.
It's about power and money. And I had Dr. Chavis on. Did you see him this morning? Dr. Ben Chavis was on.
No,
and he talked about the power that the media has and everything. It's like our own talking drums. We got to do it. But I wanted to get into Cheryl was saying something too.
Oh, I lost my
I'm
thought.
sorry.
I lost my thought. I lost
come
my
back.
thought. It'll come back.
But what Darnell said, key is concerted. It has to be Darren. I'm sorry, Darren. Concerted.
Darnell, I'm look like tiny enough.
Concerted, my like the kids say, my bag. A concerted effort. It has to be concerted. But we keep saying that after every.
Concerted and unified.
Yeah. So where does it start? Who starts this concerted effort?
Well, I'm starting something.
I'm starting it. I start
Okay,
every day I
because
go to work.
like Brenda says, and I try so hard not to just walk into that arena of anger, but I'm so filled with so many different emotions, anger, just sadness, just grief, and it's like I feel like I need to do something. I need to do something because this is a cause that's worth just pouring your life into, and you can understand why people were willing to give their lives up, because I'm willing to give my lives up for a better future for my children, and at the
Absolutely.
rate that this is going, it doesn't look
Girl,
bright for them.
you
Well,
know
see, that's
that
good that you're here today, though, Dr. Rose. What are we supposed to feel? You help me. Help me. Help
Everything
me
that we're
help my
feeling.
children.
Everything
And
that we're
and how do
feeling.
I use this anger?
here's a different piece of it. My son is married to a white woman. My grandchildren are biracial. I think of that hatred as they drive down to Tennessee tomorrow to go on vacation. Somebody see, look what this guy said. He's raping our women.
Yeah, yeah.
All of this. They have manifested this thing in their head.
And this is
that-
their reality. They convince themselves that this
I
is.
worry every time my son and his family walk out the house.
You know what? And that's a huge concern. But I worry even more so in states like Michigan, where it's hidden, but it's just as prevalent.
It's called
You
covert.
know,
It's
and-
not hidden. It's not covert.
Well-
Michigan has the largest amount of anti-government
Yes.
militias than they have in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But as far as when you first see a person, they don't necessarily look like a redneck or something like
Yeah.
that. And so, but we also see the disparity as far as, in southeastern Michigan, the blacks are here, everyone else, or the whites are here, stay over there, lack of financial inclusion of the city of Detroit, things like that. And all of that is part of this story. It's all about fear. And so I worry about that just as much as I worry about, that southern historic racism that exists down there.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's not
That's a good point.
covert. It's not covert, Darren, either. I had a workman at my house, and just so happened MSNBC was on, and President Obama was on talking, and he walked past. It was a white man, and he said, "Ah," like that.
Oh.
And
He wouldn't have been working in my house either.
Ooh.
I said,
I'm like,
"What are
just,
you talking about?"
you just
Oh,
lost that money,
nothing,
homie.
nothing. He had to work outside for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I just because he was with a black man who was actually it was his job, and he brought this guy with him. I told that man, "You never bring that man to my house."
Exactly.
And if he would have lost his job, he would have been trying to get that affordable health care.
Absolutely.
I
Now,
bet you.
exactly.
He would have been the first one online trying to get it.
and it would have gone right downtown and said I was discriminated against.
So
Yes.
you said numb, Chris. You said Rose. You were saying, what do we? You know, there's so many different emotions, and it seemed like President Obama, as I watched him, he seemed to be just so frustrated. And knowing the politics of it all, it's amazing that that guy who's head of the NRA has not gotten on and said it wasn't our fault. Of course, the whole thing has been mental health. That's what they
Yeah.
talked
Just
about.
watch Fox. He'll be there.
But they're saying it on a lot of other media channels as well. Al
Yes.
Sharpton had someone on yesterday evening, and that's the first thing that she started talking about, mental illness. And one of the other guests was like, this is not mental illness. You know, please stop saying that.
Yeah,
This
and
is
they have
calculated.
to understand what mental illness is. Is this guy mentally stable? No. He's not mentally stable. No one mentally stable goes in and takes the lives, point blank of 9 people.
And
Is he
you
mentally
assimilate
ill?
with them, Rose? You assimilate with them for an hour.
And assimilate for, is he mentally ill? No. He doesn't have to necessarily be. He had an agenda. He had an agenda
very
that he
calculated.
wanted, and very specific about this agenda.
I'd be interested to as the story comes out even further, to see who else was possibly aware of this in any capacity, and if there will be a diligent effort to dig in and see if there were, because again, this idea, this thought process was implanted into this 21-year-old, and so there needs to be responsibility. Who
Yeah.
taught you to think like this?
But think about this: there are thousands, if not millions, more just like him
Absolutely.
living among us. So it's not even about studying this individual so closely. It's about doing what needs to be done to just rid our country once and for all. Is this ever going to be, just this gaping just wound of racism continues to be open. It's never been closed. Yeah, we got a black president now. People want to use that as, so that means
Band-Aids
racism
on
is over.
bullet
No,
wounds.
we talk
Band-Aids
about
on
even the
bullet
fact that they rid affirmative action. Someone said something recently, and I said that's the best way I've ever heard it put. They said whites in this country have had affirmative action for 600 years, but they take it away from blacks after what? 50 years?
Yeah.
We have a call on the line. We have Theo on the line. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Friday to all of you.
Same to you,
I just
darling.
wanted to share some things to think about. Someone talked about names of streets and buildings, etc., being named after slave owners. Well, Cass is a street named after slave owners. Cass Technical High School, named after this same slave owner. There were a group of, alumni who tried to have the name of the school changed for that very reason.
Wow.
But there were other alumni screaming and yelling, "Don't you dare change the name of our school. We love our slave owner," I guess.
Or they
Anyway.
don't know the history.
Well, they
know.
they were educated about that history, I'm sure, and it goes back to the football teams, where several football teams paid respect to the real owners of this country,
The Native Americans.
by changing the names of very offensive football
Like the
teams.
Redskins in
Yeah,
Washington.
but the Redskins just refused to do
and-
it. But
And sadly, there were some Native Americans who said it was okay. Apparently, they thought they had integrated, and they accept that.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Can I say one other thing?
Okay.
It's
take it.
interesting. They talk about down south. Have you ever heard anybody call Florida down south? And they got just as many hateful people in
I
Florida.
consider Florida.
Yeah, well, I consider it past that Mason-Dixon line. I don't care what state you are.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
down
And
south.
last week, they
thank
named a street in Atlanta after Gladys Knight this past Tuesday.
Oh, they did?
Yes. Hmm.
Well, next week, Theo, we have the Big Bash here on the 26th, so I
The
can't wait to see
27th,
you.
27th Saturday.
I mean, the
Uh-huh.
27th, I'm sorry.
So I guess she's gonna be there.
Absolutely. Gonna be
All
there
right.
from 3 to 8.
Are you going to sing?
I don't know if I'll be able to sing. We already have a concert outside prepared.
I know, but
You know,
Oh.
maybe.
I might. All right. See you
Okay.
later. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So, I mean, this has been a week. I, I, this saga will continue.
What's the theme? The theme is race, right? Moving into our next story.
Yes.
This has been a
Yes.
week just
This story
whew.
just got bigger and bigger.
I called because I wanted to hear Chris's response on this one.
Oh, okay. About Rachel Dolezal. She was the woman who was president
Okay, Darren.
of the NAACP, and she was a white woman who was passing.
No. No, she's not white.
Who was passing for black, and it was just where she was cornered, because I really think that her parents were not the first person to say this. I think someone else busted her, and because they asked her, "Are you African American?" What do you mean? What are you talking about? I mean, she had the hair going on. Her hair was nappier than mine.
She was on
She had the
fleek.
Key Lolo locks. Remember Key Lolo and Martin?
Yeah.
She had the
So I mean, let's talk about this.
I
and
saw her in
then-
a Nelly video once.
Stop it. You are
So let's kind of talk about this, because they said she had done a good job as far as her work in civil rights, but you can be white and do good work
yeah,
in civil
absolutely,
rights.
absolutely.
What was the deal?
Well, I mean, she was married to a black man, so you know what they say. No, I'm just saying. You know.
That doesn't mean anything. She said ever since she was small, she considered
Well, I'm just
herself.
saying, once you have black,
All right.
Yeah, Doc, I'm interested to hear your perspective on this
That
because
woman, as more and more of the story as it started to come out, of course I had to analyze her. Like, that woman has what we call narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, narcissism with some histrionic personality disorder. And people with personality disorders, it's so firmly ingrained in them, it's nothing you can tell them otherwise. She believes everything she's saying, and I'm not saying believe it in a delusional way, some delusion there, but it's like, how dare you question me? This woman
Right.
considers herself the victim in this. She fabricated stories, and initially when they said it, I said, oh, well, you know, they were talking about all the good she did, but then they started talking about all these stories she was fabricating. Presenting a man to come and cut a ribbon ceremony as her father, who was not her father. You know, it's like no empathy for
She
others.
said, "Well, you could be a dad without being." a
Yeah,
father."
that sounds good. That sounds good. You know, presenting this boy as her son, biological son, when he's actually her adopted
brother.
brother. I mean, she convoluted such a story and a lie that she presented. I mean, it's textbook. It's textbook as a psychologist narcissism. This woman is narcissistic, very charming, you know, can really ingratiate a lot of people and get people on board. But really, in-depthly, she's just twisted. She's twisted and disturbed.
you know what? I want to actually touch on something that may be a little opposing, Doc. For whatever reason, I feel a touch of pity for her, because anytime that you don't identify with really who you are, and obviously she has some delusion in there, I do feel a touch of pity in there because she just doesn't understand the severity of not only her posing as an African American, but also the impact that it has to black folks.
She understands the severity. She just wanted a story.
Thank
She
you.
wanted a
Thank you.
story.
I don't think she wanted this story. I
Yeah,
think that
no,
she
not
did
this
not want.
story. No, she wanted to be recognized as someone who had gone through all the injustices that blacks in this country for hundreds of years have gone through. She understands, because she get up there and she damn the
Who
white
wants
man.
that though, Doc? Like, who wants to places
She
with black
did because
folks.
she wanted.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
let me tell you something. A
Oh, no, no, no,
narcissist
no, no.
wants attention.
Let me tell you something.
This woman wanted attention. She didn't want to get exposed.
Let
Yeah.
me say something. I've been on an African adventure in my life. I used to commentate African or Nigerian fashion shows. And there was one particular girl who was in that circuit who was American, Detroiter, just like myself, who all of a sudden she started speaking in the accent. I know two people like this, speaking in the accent, adapting their everything. This is part of my culture. This is part of this. I said, well, you used to didn't talk like that. I mean, there are people who do that, and I agree with you, Rose. They are narcissistic. But they want so much with the assimilation.
Assimilation. They want to be able to say, I can relate to this, because this woman talk about being whipped
Yeah.
like slaves were whipped. She's talking about being whipped because of her complexion as a child. She was a white child. She
Yeah.
had no complexion.
To even presume that she has some type of understanding of, or for us, of that matter, of what our forefathers went through, it's just crazy. However, I think that, I don't know. I think that she is lost, and she does have some serious mental illness.
Yeah, that's mental illness.
If you're on social media talking about I'm going all natural for my 36th birthday, this natural hair journey, that's a perm. She had her hair permed.
I know. And then she gets up the caveat, and she's saying in her relationships, well, I'm bisexual, so I date men and women. It's like, here's another thing. Matt Lauer even said, I don't even know where to go with this. There's another layer. We have a phone call right this second. Marcia, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Good morning, Marcia.
Yes. You know what? We need to have a DNA test done on this young lady. There may be something here that we don't know about the mother and the daughter's relationship. No DNA tests have been done. And I'm back to, we have a problem here of the miseducation of white Americans. They are miseducated. They talk about the miseducation of the Negro, but we have a miseducation of white America. We heard this, most of this violence has really came out due to the Congress and due to this black president of whom the Congress has not respected since the day one he got in. And we heard this, we want our country back. We heard this phrase, phrase during his campaign, we want our country back.
Sure.
And this young little terrorist, he's making the same thing of wanting his country back. White people are miseducated about their history here in African and the world history.
Okay.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So back to Rachel Dolezal.
Go in and be able to file a charge saying that she was discriminated against based on her race.
Who, Rachel?
Yeah, she filed charges with
I got
Howard University.
fired because of
Said
my
she
race.
was discriminated for being a white woman.
For being
You know,
white.
for being
now she's
so
gonna
it's
say-
whatever suits her. Again, that's a personality disorder. Whatever's
Right.
in. Oh, bisexuality's in now. Let me share with
That's
folks that I'm
what-
bisexual,
that's a
so
great
I can
point.
get some
Great point,
attention.
And she compared herself to Caitlyn. And I hate to say it, but there are a lot of people who still have problems with Caitlyn.
When I met Darren, he mentioned that he was part Indian. And
But aren't we all?
the same thing. I look at that. I'm like, I'm looking at Darren, and I just don't.
Choctaw.
But don't you hear that? With even and when I hear people say that,
Wait, what did Darren say?
I said I got chocolate all in my formula.
Yeah, definitely.
But, I mean, she used this as her identity. She seems like a woman who liked black men or black people and just wanted to assimilate.
and she
them.
used that as her identity when it worked for her.
Right.
Because at Howard
Right.
University,
It
she
didn't
sued them
work.
for being a white woman. I know personally, I've had friends who really assimilated with the black culture that I welcomed in, our peer group welcomed in, but these people did not try to deny who they were authentically. We still knew they had white parents.
That undermines their credibility.
Yes.
If you
But
can't.
look at how in both situations that we're talking about today, how black folks welcomed these people in. And he terrorized them with firearms. She's terrorizing with credibility and lies.
That's a good point.
A very good point. And she was elected president of the Spokane NAACP.
And no integrity, because if you watch that interview with Matt Lauer earlier this week, this woman was on the Today Show as if her accolades had gotten her there. She was on the Today Show like, yes, like smiling, because again, the cameras are on her. The cameras are on her. Not you're on the Today Show because you've been revealed as a fraud. Like, there's no part of you that should be relishing in the fact that you're on TV that can be viewed around the world for being a liar and a fraud with no integrity.
Well, do you all believe, Ryan was telling me this, he said she should have just gone on and said, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done it, I won't do it again.
Yeah, you know, I would have had a lot more respect for her with that, but that's not what a narcissist does.
Exactly.
And that's not what she's going to do.
No.
She's going to continue to say, I'm black, I'm black. And her parents are saying, you know, this is live birth, this is not an adoption. You're not black. Well, no. I don't know if they're really my parents, is what the last thing she said.
Yeah, what you know, one of the key features of a narcissist is a lack of empathy for others. So the mere fact that this woman has been parading around and having other folks show up as her father, you know, that shows a lack of even empathy for your own father who's still living.
Rose, isn't that kind of sociopathic behavior too?
It's all of that is in the under the umbrella of personality disorders. So even a sociopathic personality characteristics and traits can fall in there. But yeah, you know, there are many people walking around this earth, and we've had some that they've accused of being narcissists, even in Detroit government of recent years, you know, who blame everyone else. Everybody else, they see themselves as the victim.
Right. Well, it was embarrassing for the Spokane group, but there was another part of this story that we talked about that I listed, and that was white women trying to be like black women. What was your impression of that? And they,
I don't want to go first.
go on, Cheryl Ajimu.
You know what? I'll speak on it. I think that when you look at the history of black women in this country, there has been an admiration, albeit uncredited. Yeah. They don't credit this adornment that they have with the black skin. All these tanning salons. You know, like you said, the body composition. Even the way that is.
That was a nice way to put that.
Well, you learn. You know, even how, you know, pop culture has really. If we look at Beyonce in not only in the United States but in the world is the standard for beauty amongst women, and it's
with all that fake hair.
True that.
Who's she trying to emulate? She's got blonde hair and trying to emulate with all this flowing.
Well, I have blonde hair.
Yeah, but
no, I'm looking at you.
It's my hair.
But your hair is natural.
But you know what? I agree. You know, I don't want to say Beyonce is the standard of beauty. She's a beautiful woman, but I think what we have to start accepting, there's many standards of beauty. There's many standards of beauty. It's not just one dimensional.
Yeah, I agree, Doc. But popular culture likes to culture likes to have an absolute you're a black beautiful woman, and that they don't define it amongst the black community. We're like, no, like I've seen, and it really ticks me off when they'll isolate a certain look and say that's black beauty. Well, wait a minute, you ain't even asked a black person
what it is. But let me tell you this, and when I say even the black culture has been bamboozled to accept their standard of beauty. Yeah. Okay, so let me go back to even in the 1700s in Louisiana, where there were free slaves walking around, you know, free slaves, and these women were wearing their hair natural. They were putting feathers in it, because we know as black women we can wear our hair curly one day, afro another day, straight the other day. It caused so many problems in Louisiana that the white women were offended because they couldn't get their hair to do that. It was causing attention. The white men were looking, so they passed a law.
They were looking at their hair.
They passed a law that
Prevented.
prohibited
Yeah,
prohibited black women from wearing their hair out, and that's where the advent of the headscarf came in, because they were forced at that time to put headscarves on because the white women were really felt uncomfortable
Intimidated.
about their white men looking at these adornments of feathers in the hair and hair doing all sorts of things.
Well, sure. Because you see, we got 10, 11 minutes. Cheryl, and everybody. Let's talk quickly about some of the things that we know that they have taken and used as theirs. Okay, we talk about they want a butt that's shaped a certain way,
And lips.
and lips,
The
especially
skin. The skin is a big one.
the skin
Yeah.
color. They've done the hair, the braids, and I mean just different things that were common to African
And it's
Americans.
nothing wrong with that. Just give,
Yeah.
My thing is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah.
Really.
But you know what
Only
my
if you-
issue is, and I'll say this again, my issue is that many of us have bought into the fact that this isn't beautiful. You understand?
Right.
When I decided to go natural, people were like, "What are you doing with your hair? Oh, you should. Why isn't it straight? Straighten your hair out." My daughter decides to cut off all her hair and go natural. And it's just that like society, our people, not the white. Because when I go out like this, trust me, every day, tons of white women are coming up. "Oh my God, your hair is beautiful." You know that, Brenda.
Can I touch it? Type shit.
Yeah.
I get a lot.
You know
I
that.
get a lot of that. They want to touch your hair.
They
Don't
want to touch
my
your hair. But if you go to your black friends and say, "I'm thinking about going natural," or "I'm thinking about getting dreads," girl, what are
I'm
you
gonna make
thinking
a shirt
about?
up that says "Do not touch my
But
hair."
here's
Give
the
it to
other
you
thing.
all.
I remember this guy because I used to wear a short afro, and it was cute. It was cute. But this one guy, he trying to talk to me, and he said, "What, you think is a guy? Are you like a guy because you wear your hair so short?" I think we have carte blanche to wear our hair any way we want. But I do want
Just warn your man before you come home with it. Warn him. Don't come
and why
home.
you
Don't
gotta
leave
be
out.
warned?
Don't leave out.
Cheryl was going to say something. She said, "Don't let me start first." Let me hear
Go
what
ahead.
Cheryl said.
Because I can't say that.
She
No.
said, "No, I don't want to be on record saying."
So I'll talk about something else.
You-
But just
Cheryl,
the
come on.
But
Come on, get in here, Cheryl. Get him.
No,
Somebody
right?
get him. I'm not there. Somebody
Don't
get
you
him.
have an opinion on it?
I do.
I think
Why
that
don't you water it down? At least tell us something. Don't
When
leave us
Chris
hanging.
get through.
Yeah,
When Chris get through.
I think that the beauty of black people is that we're so diverse. You know, I mean, our hair can be straight as an arrow, or it can be, just as kinky and nappy, and we have a range of skin tones that can be as fair as the whitest of whites, but as darkest, So I think that gives us, just from an aesthetic viewpoint, a leg up, because we are a race that wherever we walk in a crowd, whatever country, they can't say that person isn't black. You can, a European can walk in a Spanish country, and you're like, well, until he opens his mouth or something, or
Right.
and you won't know. But black
I
folks,
don't respect Kim Kardashian because I have to say this: her lips get bigger every time I look.
Chris got her poster.
excuse me.
Chris, what?
Chris got her poster, Kim Kardashian.
No, actually, I'm not a fan of Kim Kardashian. I always wondered, I always wondered really what the big deal was about her. And
Because she's
The big
ethnic
deal.
looking, but she
No,
has
you know what? She does-
the
she-
white features.
to
and-
me, she's really not ethnic looking. I mean, her face.
trying to
She's a
Yeah.
pretty girl. I won't deny it.
That's what
I won't
she's a beautiful girl.
She's a pretty girl, but I don't
That's right.
see anything remotely.
I think she's this side of Rachel Dolezal.
She's the same. Exactly, Brenda.
No, she's about that money.
Exactly a Rachel Dolezal.
But
she's-
now, if
I-
Kim
I-
Kardashian
I
didn't
wanna
have
be
a
black.
big booty, which
I
y'all
mean,
know,
look at Mariah Carey. When she needed to make some money and and do what she needed to do, she blackened up her music. She got into some black videos, and now everybody all in love with her. And now and then she straightens her hair back out and makes it all nice and long. Can't hold a note to save her life. but she's back in, and we accepted her. She come on in, and she terrorizes us. These same people, like the Kardashians, terrorizes us
He said
by
terrorize.
taking the kids' money.
Well, a part of that is because essentially, and I think Akon spoke on this. It was an interview on Akon about some of the work he's doing over in Africa. America, the United States, wasn't really designed for black folks to be successful. So we have to assimilate when we're looking to advance. Whatever you call it, there is an assimilation. You have to. I can remember being taught as a young man by my mother and my grandmother to be a certain way. And it wasn't that, who I'm at home was anything wrong with that. However, the expectation or the perception of that, they don't understand it. So they automatically disqualify it. So this country inherently and historically really isn't designed for us to naturally fit in. For us to naturally blend in, many times we have to do things that make ourselves feel uncomfortable and unnatural.
Okay, real quick. I was watching Law and Order: Criminal Intent one day, and Vincent D'Onofrio, the tall cop, he goes into an area where some black guys are playing basketball. When he goes in there, he assimilates. He starts, doing like this, and yeah, I know this and that. I mean, it is amazing when you see white men go around black men like that. They try to
Have
to
that
me, it's
swag.
very
We call it
patronizing.
code switching, and everyone does it.
Yeah, everyone
does it. Code
Yeah,
switching.
I get around my African friends, and next thing you know, I sound like a Liberian. And so
Everyone
it
does
happens.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my husband was sharing. He interviewed a lady yesterday who didn't understand the code switching. Code switching is important because this woman thought she was with her friends on the front porch in the hood. And it's okay because when we get around, we know you guys have been at my house and we've had some good sangria. So when we get around each other, we're not
Let go.
on this panel here. We can let
Right.
go, but we
I
know
dance on the table.
she dances on it. We weren't gonna tell. My chandelier is still broken,
Yeah.
but we get here and we know how to just present ourselves again, not to appease white culture, but we know what's
To assimilate.
appropriate.
Yeah, you gotta-
we knows what is appropriate in situations.
Okay, Cheryl, say it.
I already did. I said if Kim Kardashian had a big booty, would y'all know? If she didn't have one,
Yeah.
would you know her?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
Well, we know Nicki Minaj. If she didn't have one,
Well,
same standard.
Kim
Well, we-
Kardashian's sister got
Not from the front.
some booty added, too.
Yeah.
I mean, why do people admire these people who are doing this? I just don't understand it. I've
Because
been
I think they
blasted.
admire him because black is so beautiful.
And nothing.
No, but I've seen her talk. There are days when her lips are bigger than other days.
Oh.
Yeah.
But people have bought.
Maybe she has reverse Pinocchio syndrome, which is when she
Oh,
lies,
Lord Jesus.
her booty gets bigger. And Doc, maybe you could talk on that syndrome.
No,
There's
I'm
been
not gonna
studies.
touch that.
What bothers me is her husband, Kanye West, tries to make her the standard of beauty of the world.
And that's his standard, and that's
Kanye
fine.
West is not the standard of sanity in the world. So
However, I will say, and even your grandchildren, for whatever reason, when the races come together and produce kids, oh my gosh. It's just like, not that black babies aren't beautiful, white babies aren't beautiful, but it's just like, I don't know, man. It's a unique. I mean,
unique
when I look at pictures of your grandkids, I'm like, and the charisma, but actually, more times than not, the kids actually identify with the black side.
Let me just
And
tell you
honestly,
this real
Brenda,
quick.
when you said-
Everybody,
until you
listen to
said-
this. My
until you said that
granddaughter.
they had some white parentage,
But
you would
listen,
not even you couldn't tell that they were half white. They look like beautiful black children.
but here, my granddaughter was in kindergarten, and most of the kids, all except two, who are biracial or white. I have a problem with that whole situation anyway. But anyway, they were talking about Martin Luther King back in January and about the civil rights movement as much as they could say to kindergartners. My son went up to wake up my granddaughter, and she was crying. She was crying because I'm so worried about me and Daddy because they tried to kill the brown
Wow.
people.
Wow.
I
Whoa.
mean, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I worry. This climate that we have out here right now is something, like I said, to worry about because they're I mean, there's so much hate.
And miseducation. You know,
Ignorance.
it's mandatory for African Americans to learn about white history to graduate high school. How about we make it mandatory that they learn about African American history or Latino American history in order to graduate? We have to learn about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson.
Right, right. And as you know, the time, you know, we're getting ready to turn into a pumpkin. But I want to say next week, we don't have table talk because we have Bernadette Stannis on the show. We're also going to interview Bert from Bert's Place.
about
You
the
know, he
original
moved to
booty.
this place
Talking about the original booty.
The original booty, right?
So we'll be back in
Congratulations, Golden State Warriors. Congratulations, Golden State. Oh no, I wanted LeBron to win too, but you gotta
I
give
know,
it to
they
him.
were good
Okay,
team.
Darren, thank you. See you next
Guys,
week, everybody. Gonna have a great show.
Bye.